Hi everyone, just 1 second. I gotta do all the social marketing stuff. So let's see here.
What happens if you're not sleeping on a Beauty Rest mattress? What if your mattress doesn't have Beauty Rest pocketed coil technology? Or air-cool memory foam, or conforming back support? The Recharge mattress from Beauty Rest. It's you, fully charged. Fully charged.
All right.
Fully charged.
So now that I got that out of the way. All right.
Fully charged.
Now we can finally start the stream. So now that I got that out of the way. Hey, hi everyone. I'm Tim Von Rieden here at cgcookie.com, and in today's stream I'm going to take the exercise that we've been working on for the week at cgcookie.com, and in today's stream I'm going to take character in the 3 different stages of being infected, and I think I'm going to be starting to take these exercises a little more seriously. Like I'm going to take them and really try to work on them, rather than just being something on the side, something as being one really focuses on content cookies. Rather, as I feel like this is one of the ways that we can help you either build a portfolio or try things that maybe you wouldn't try before, and I want to treat it either like that. And for this one, I've never really done something like this either, so there are challenges for me as well. And this live stream, I've never really done something like this either, so there are challenges for me as well. And this live stream, I've never really done something like this either, so like always, I'm going to have always, I'm going to have. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know I was echoing. So let me change that really quick. Always, I'm going to have. Man, the comics just went crazy. Hold on. Okay, I know I'm echoing. Man, the comics just went crazy. Hold on. Okay, I know I'm because I have. Man, the comics just went crazy. We got some volume to that. All right, thank you. Okay. So, like I was saying, I'm going to be doing these live streams every Wednesday, but for this one, it's going to be focused on the exercise, and that might not be true for every live stream, but for this one in particular, I wanted to go that route. And I have my second monitor, so I'm going to have that set up for all the comments, and I'll make sure I'm checking back and forth between the time and making sure that I'm getting back to you guys. But let me set up this microphone right in front of me really quick. Yeah, thank you guys for being so responsive right away. That was awesome timing. I thought you guys were all just saying hi or something, and I looked over, and then you guys were like in a frantic. And this is why I like having you guys be able to comment. For that reason. So whenever I'm messing up, you guys can catch it. But, okay. So yesterday I did a quick sketch of this human male character, and I just wanted it to be simple, face forward, and I wanted the focus to be rather less on the character and more so on what's happening to him. So I took the time to do some research on this kind of a concept, and I was trying to think of a few different things. So originally I wanted to do something with aquatics, and I thought it'd be really cool to like bloom his face out to like a coral reef and do some really interesting things on that end. And the more that I looked into it, the more that I was trying new things, because I didn't want it to be just a zombie. I wanted there to be something more. And when I was doing my research, I came across this flesh-eating bacteria, and I found it to be really interesting, and it's called necrotizing fasciitis. But it pretty much eats the flesh away, and it has this really gross look to it, and the colors are really nice. So let me see here. I'm going to make sure I have the comments on the side. Because I think rather than have it on my second monitor, it's just easier to have it on the side here. Yeah, I guess I could spell that out for you guys really quick. Yeah, so even though it's a really gross concept, it's the colors and the way that they're introduced are really, really nice. So I'm going to play with those colors. And it has like a nice orange and yellow tones to it. So to get started, and I don't know if you guys have been doing these on your own, but this exercise is to do these stages, and you can use pretty much the same head for each stage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I would go about starting something like this. So pretty much the first one isn't going to be that big of a change from how you would normally look to being infected. And the infected, the way I wanted it to infect the person itself is I wanted this bacteria to latch onto a water source. So there has to be some moisture. And I thought it'd be really gross if it started from where he breathes, so in his mouth and in his nose, and kind of worked its way around. So for the first one, I'm just going to imagine that maybe it's just getting in. He might have some gross little bacteria fungus around his nose and mouth area. And then it's really going to grow and eat away the skin from there. And I'm working in Greyscale now, so it's so much less of a focus on the final product and so much more on the concept of what exactly am I seeing here. So then for the second one, I see it really eating up the front of his face and kind of moving upwards. And another cool thing about, well, I don't know about cool, kind of sickly, but the cool thing about it is it will show the different layers of the skin underneath as it kind of eats away the flesh. And that's where you can really play with your color tones. And I didn't want this to look bloody. Rather, I wanted it to look kind of sickening when you look at it. Like it's not something that you want to be viewing. So on my second screen, I have just a whole bunch of Google images right now about the necrotiting fasciitis. And I hope I'm saying that right, but it's really disturbing images, and I don't think I'd be able to show them on my main screen. I don't want to gross you guys out. But there's a focus less on like the blood than it is focus on like the different layers of the skin. And I think that's why it's so cool and it catches my attention so much. Yeah, a man eating cold sore. Exactly. Then I see this even bringing up into the top of his head area. And then finally, for the third one, I want it to pretty much have eaten away most of the center of the face. And rather than it growing outward, it's growing, well, it's not growing inward, it's taking value out. So there's less substance to be had. So I have to give it the impression that the bacteria is eating inward and not outward. So I'm going to start with more of a hole. And I wanted it to, by this point, there's very little humanity left in the character itself. And the infection, if not killed him, it has lost all kind of point of humanity. So you can almost imagine it as if the bacteria has split his face into two. And while I was in the car, I was thinking of some very kind of disturbing things. And one of them was I wanted the tongue to be kind of hanging out in the third one, and the tongue just be filled with like boils and just a whole bunch of infections. Yeah. Hey, Jim, you don't look so good. Yeah, so this one's definitely different than the other streams we have done, because this is probably the more, or it is the most horror kind of gore themed. But this is something that's really popular in the industry, and you can't really avoid it, especially if you're a concept artist. You might have to do things like this, and I think it's good to kind of have variety to your portfolio. So even though this might not be your favorite subject matter, it's definitely good to at least try it and include it in case this is a job or a potential job that you might have to work for. And I was thinking that there would be some of the skull remaining underneath, because you definitely want to, show some of that underlying anatomy. Well, in this case, the bone structure. But I figured that this bacteria would be strong enough where it could even eat the contents of the bone. But I think it would be really cool to have some remains of the bones. Maybe like some of the teeth are still intact. And also I think some of that would be in the second stage as well. So the other thing that you have to think about is making sure that each stages look like one went to the next, and then that stage went to the next. You want it to feel like a natural progression. Yeah, I guess he probably shouldn't be smiling in the second one. He's not a happy camper at this point. So maybe we'll start ripping that face down. All right, so now that we kind of have like the basic skin structure of how it's ripping and eating his flesh alive, I want to start playing with different colors, but I want to be really careful not to overdo it right away. So to start off, I'm going to give him a basic skin color. And for this exercise this week, I decided I would go ahead and make some new brushes for skin brushes that you could use. And if you're a citizen member, I'm going to put these brushes on the site after the stream is done. And pretty much they have some cool effects that the original skin brush doesn't really give off. So if I do a quick sampling, this one is a dry brush. You can see how it has that look of when your skin is really, really dry, usually in the winter. You can like see all the individual wrinkles. And then this next one is one that is more like a stamp where you can like see the underlying veins, and it has a very sickly look to it, and that's called my sickly skin brush. And then this one is a leather skin brush. As you can see as I lay that down. And this one originally was intended for animal skin, but I figured, people can have really rough leather looking skin if they're in the sun a lot, and you can really see the indentations of wrinkles. So I wanted to include that one, but that one can also double as just a leather brush. And then this very sharp skin brush, it has a harder rough edge rather than the soft edge that the normal brush has. And it has more of that wrinkle indentation. And lastly, this is just a heavy pore brush. And that's just when you do like a close-up of someone's skin, either like a face region or somewhere. And you can see the pores, and it's usually sweating, or there's high intense where it's enough where there would be like goosebumps showing almost, and like on your arm. So I wanted to do those. So to be a citizen, you have to put, it's $18 a month, but you can still download the basic brushes. That's for anyone to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use the sickly brush for this part. Or no, for the basics of the skin, or for the base laydown, I'm going to use the skin brush, the normal one. Okay, so I'm going to choose a skin color. Lay it out. And for this one, I'm going to use a lighter skin color, more desaturated, because I want the colors of the bacteria and the fungus, I want that to really stand out. So I'm just going to give them a base to work from first. And what I could do is I could create a base for the first head and then copy and paste it onto the second and third, and then just kind of work around it with where I place the bacteria. Yeah, skin colors are just a little too bright. There we go. I think this one's going to suit well. There we go. Okay. So I'm just lightly pushing on the skin. And you could do this in Greyscale as well. I just enjoy working with color more than I do on Greyscale, so that's why I usually jump into color earlier. But for a concept like this, you can definitely do it in Greyscale and have the same result and the same kind of concept executed. Oh, I see you guys are talking about the GIMP and Photoshop debate, but right now I use the monthly Photoshop. I forget what it's called, something creative, some package where it's like $20 a month for Photoshop, and that's the one that I currently am signed up for. All right, now I'm just going to indicate just a few skin highlights to round them out just a little bit. So like I said, I don't want the skin to be the focus. And I'm keeping the skin relatively clean in the first one because I figured as the infection grows, himself will get pretty dirty as well. So whether it's dirt or just the environmental factor of wherever he is, I'm going to slowly add on some dirt and stuff on top then. I think I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see what I'm doing more clear. There we go. Something that I wanted to ask you guys even before I started the stream is, what is your favorite type of infected, either game, movie, or television show? Because I recently played The Last of Us, and I found it to be really inspiring, not only because I think it's a really great game as well, but the concept art book that I got really did some great concept ideas, and the execution of them were really well done. And I like the idea of this fungus that is found in life. They use that as an inspiration to create the rest of their concepts. So yeah, Walking Dead, that's always a good, they did a good job with the zombie makeup, and it's a realistic feeling without feeling cheesy, because I know sometimes zombie stuff can borderline on that. Yeah, it looks like you guys even know what the real life bacteria is called. Oh yeah, that's another thing I wanted to share with you guys is that for this exercise, I created a Pinterest page of zombie type concepts that you can use for reference and inspiration. And that's for anyone to look at. You can find that on the CG Cookie Facebook page and on the exercise page itself. And I know you guys might think that Pinterest is all just like, you know, recipes and for moms, but I did some research and I really like the layout of it. It's like Tumblr, but if it had images spread all the way across. So I don't know, something extra if you wanted some inspiration or reference to look at. All right, so I'm gonna grab this chalk brush. I'm gonna use this to harden up some of the edges. Because as much as I like the skin brush, it often makes things look a little too soft everywhere. And I want to add some texture to this character. So usually for something like this, I'll leave the edges more out of focus and then the areas in the front more in focus. Yeah, I am thinking of making the eyes kind of glossed over as we get to the more infected stages. I'm gonna grab a lighter skin color to do some minor highlight points. All right, so lastly, I'm gonna grab a color layer mode and we're going to hopefully get some color into this character. So I'm getting rid of a lot of that grayscale. Sometimes this can be a bit heavy, like even right now it's looking a tad too much. So what I can do is I can lower the opacity and put it underneath of that other layer we just did. All right, then I can see the difference. All right, so now I'm gonna add on some infection. So like I said, I wanted this bacteria to be more orange and have a more of a flesh-eating look rather than it just being really bloody and gory. So let's see if we can do this. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna pull some of the colors from this image that I did earlier. All right, I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see it too. Yes, I will be using the same skin brushes when I'm adding the dirty part of the face. But to start off, I'm gonna have this infection really eat away at his upper lip and nasal area. I guess I should rephrase that because flesh eating is gory, but I don't see it as being like blood spewed everywhere. I see it more as just like an infection, bacteria that's eating away at the skin. So I guess when I think of gore, I think of a lot of blood. So I don't see this as being a lot of blood. I'm eating Oreos, I regret nothing. That's funny. I hope this doesn't make you throw those Oreos back up. So I'm starting with a base orange color. Oh man, I should really zoom in so you guys can see that more. So I'm starting with this base orange color. And then I'm using the secondary orange color on top to kind of represent where either the inside of the bacteria is or to represent the light hitting it. And at this stage I can keep it still relatively sketchy because I know sometimes I get too wrapped up into trying to kind of over render something way too soon. So for this, I'm just trying to have fun with it. Just imagine how this bacteria would really be eating away at this face. Yeah, this was another one that I really thought about, and I'm not just going into it blindly. I really thought that this would be a bacteria that would be airborne, and it needed a certain amount of moisture for it to grow and start developing. So then I figured where he is breathing into, so his nose and his mouth area, that's where the bacteria kind of latched onto, and over time it just started growing and growing to the point where it just started taking over. And yeah, I guess he could have been picking his nose with a hangnail. I'm going to put these colors on the side. And I'm going to grab some of these yellows as well. So the yellow I'm kind of using as like the tip point of the bacteria. And I don't know if that's where something is located in, because on skin, usually with like a boil or something, there's like a point of white blood cell kind of, what's a good word for that? It's a high concentration of them, so it looks like a little thing of pus at the end of it. Yeah, exactly. And I kind of wanted that to be something with the bacteria as well. Is there a cure for this? I was thinking about that and I wasn't sure yet. Control Z and clear cell. Yeah. That's funny. So now I'm going to also make an overlay layer. And this is to stress, oops, not on that layer, new layer. And that's to stress the skin irritation. And usually when the skin gets irritated, you'll see like a red type of pulling on the skin. I'm not going to do this with the chalk brush. I'm going to do this with one of the new brushes. Actually, I'm going to do this underneath of all that because I don't want the red going over the orange. I want it to be just more on the skin. So you really want it to start looking like this bacteria is affecting the skin. And I know that even after this stream's over, I'm going to spend a lot of time really working on the skin and making this look more realistic. But for concepting it out, I just want to lay it out right now. So since I have such a warm concentration of color in the center of the face, And I want to make him look sickly in other parts of the face as well. I'm going to take like a soft bluish purple color. And I'm going to draw it, or place this sickly brush on like the outside of the skin. Oop, nope, not that layer. There we go. I guess I'm going to have to do this on a layer on top so you can see it better. And I want this to kind of start representing it to look very sickly. I want the skin to look not well. If I add too much, just grab my eraser tool and erase it out. Let me zoom out and see what that looks like. No, I'm starting to think that that looks too developed, so I'm going to take the sickly skin out until later on. So now that we have a base down, I guess I should go ahead and move on to the second one. And then if I want to, I can always come back to the first one and touch it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these layers that I just made and put them in a group folder. So you can see on and off. I'm going to make a copy of that by dragging the folder to the new layer button. And then I'm going to drag it over to the second one. Now for this one, I'm going to copy that original sketch that I had. I'm going to layer it right on top. Sort of as like indication marks on where I need to do this. And I'm going to change that to a multiply layer. So in this, I'm using pretty much as a base for me to lay down my oranges on top of. So I'm going to go ahead and once again, grab my skin brush, start drawing some infection. I'll make sure I can still see your guys' comments on the side. There we go. All right, so I still want to be using that same structure that I was using for the first one. So I want to make sure that I'm using more circular patterns for the bacteria and then pretty much just letting it grow. So making them either bigger, having more sections of the skin missing where you can see what's going on underneath. And usually I'll try to count like, okay, there's a good section of them on the left side of his face, and if those kept growing on, I want to make sure they didn't just like disappear, you know? Yeah, if you get a zit, don't pop it. Especially don't pop it with a hangnail. So just like the first one, I'm laying that secondary orange color. If you guys can hear that, that's my Pandora giving me advertisement. But I'm going to do my best to ignore that. And right here, I'm starting to get into the underlayers of the flesh. So now that we have all these orange and yellow colors, I do have to start considering the skin colors and how it would look underneath. So I'm going to look back at my reference here. And even though it is wildly disgusting, I'm going to pay attention to the different hues that are in there. So there's a lot of different pinks and yellows and soft oranges. I want to make sure that I'm capturing all of them. And finally, we can introduce some of those reds. So I know up until this point, I've been trying to avoid using reds because I wanted this to be, like I keep repeating, is more of a bacteria-looking infection rather than it being more of a zombie, bloody type of infection. And I guess we'll give him back some of his teeth. So even though his face has been completely taken over by fungus, he's got some nice looking teeth. But I'm also gonna make sure that we have his teeth not looking perfectly clean, because we still want it to stay within the context of the storyline that we're giving him. So they've probably become a little more dirty and less taken care of. Oh, that is true. I guess the bacteria would eat and keep the teeth clean. A gold tooth, and that was the only thing that survived. All right, just for you, I'll give him a golden tooth right there. And in the end concept, that'll be the only one that remains. Because like I said, I wanted the bacteria to be strong enough where eventually it would eat through the bone rather quickly. But obviously flesh would be the first thing it can really rip through. Yeah, he still takes the time to floss. And if this guy can take the time to floss, I think you can too. So not only is this a concept art live stream, but it's also into medical health practice inspiration. And I'm also going to give the teeth some specular highlights to really emphasize that they're teeth. Exactly. Maybe this guy was a dentist. That's why it's so important to him. Alright, so now I'm going to get some of my deep blood scarlets downwards closer to the bone. Because I still want to show some of this exposed muscle that would be around different areas on the face, but it'd be really thin because there isn't like a bulking mass of muscle on the face like there would be like in your like legs or other areas, but there's still enough where it'd be visible. So another thing that we could do is we could have the bacteria start like growing out of the section inside of the skin. So we start and lay down a structure of the darker orange inside and have it kind of pull out, and then draw the lighter orange on the way outside. And it gives that impression as if it's growing outside of the skin. So I also want this bacteria source to make its way into the upper area of the head, so that by the third head, it makes sense that it ate away and kind of exposed the brain. The disease that we're making isn't exactly a real one, so I'm taking inspiration from, it's called necrotizing fasciitis, and I'm kind of building that into its own little concept where it eats away at the skin as well as produces these bacterial spore clusters. So I wanted it to be more where the skin is being taken out rather than it growing or morphing. Because I know with a lot of these zombie concepts in video games especially, where like the boomers in Left 4 Dead, where like the virus literally infects and then morphs the character. So I want it to be less of that and more of it just kind of eating away at the skin, and it really being kind of a horrifying thought of this bacteria literally just eating away at your skin and you can't do anything to stop it. So yeah, in the area that would be around the infection, that hair would be kind of receding. That is a good idea. Yeah, so this one really isn't so much as a zombie concept as it is an infection concept. And I wanted you guys that are doing the exercise to really just have fun with it, and you could go either way, or you could even make something up where there's 3 stages of a character that is either being eaten away or morphing or transforming into something over 3 different stages. So for me, I really wanted to do kind of a bacterial infection. Not to say that zombie concepts can't be awesome as well. All right, so now that we have this eating the half of his face up, I'm going to go ahead and do an overlay layer just like I did with the first one. I'm going to grab, I forgot what I called this brush, broken skin. I'm going to grab the broken skin brush and just lay out some of that red. You can see how this will really make it look like it's spreading into the skin. That's why I really like this brush. Yes, there will be something happening to his eyeballs, and I'm saving that for, I think, last. Because originally I was thinking the eye would like gloss over and there would just be like fungus and mucus in the eye. And I think I'm going to do that for maybe the second one here. But then in the third one, I think I want it to be more filled with blood and it not being able, it's like trapped inside of the eye. And I don't know if you guys ever had that like where you slammed your finger in like a door or something and then there was a lot of built up trapped blood behind it. And to get it out, they have to poke, or they literally shoot a little laser in your finger. At least that's what they did to me. And my nail, there was like blood was squirting out, and it releases the trapped blood. And I kind of wanted that to be with the eye. Yeah, the good times. So now here, I'm just trying to really make it feel more graphic. And this overlay will really enhance the colors. So I don't want to overdo it, but I want to do it enough where it's starting to blend in the bacteria and the skin. Yeah, I apologize to any of you that are eating or doing anything with food. I should have did a forewarning before I just kind of dived into this. So in areas where there's like boils kind of by themselves, I like adding an overlay underneath of it and just kind of adding more of a red gradient around it. And it really gives the idea that the tension around the skin, around the boil, is irritated. So then to give them some dirt to the face, I'm going to grab that dry skin brush and just lightly brush in the areas that are more kind of smooth, because we want to start to dirty this character up. But I don't want to go overboard yet, because I want to save that for the third one. Now lastly, I'm going to do what I did in the first one that I forgot, which is grab that yellow and just kind of highlight different areas. Oh, I want to make sure I'm doing this on a new layer. A normal one, no overlays for this. So for even doing things like adding these little circles, I still like using the skin brush rather than the circle brush, because sometimes that can still give too much of a hard edge, and that's something that I'm not really looking for at this point. Next week on The Bachelor. I'm also going to grab that pink, and I'm going to start drawing some of the underlying skin layers that I seem to kind of have looked over. So to do that, I'm just laying down an indication mark as to like where that skin layer might end. I'm just going around and doing it and laying it out. Okay, I think I'm about ready to get on to the third one. So I'm sorry if you guys really liked his perfect teeth, but I'm going to start to break them down. Because I want in the third one, I want his tongue to be visible. Do I take into the account the surface of the skull during highlighting and shadowing of the blood and teeth? Yes. I want to make sure that I'm consistent with my light source, but I'm also trying to make it less about like the rendering of the character and more so on the concept of the character. So sometimes I know a lot of concept artists won't even really include a light and just have it be kind of like an omnidirectional light. And that's where it's just lit from all sides kind of evenly. So for him, I'm not worrying too much about like a distinct light source. All right, he's looking very pretty. So I think we're about ready to rip him up just even that much more. Yeah, concept art can be confusing because there's illustrative concept artists, there's very quick concept artists, and then I think there's a huge difference between like environment art and character art, and there you can be really good and specific in certain ones where I consider myself more as a fantasy artist rather than a sci-fi artist. But with practice, I mean, you could do whatever type of concept art you would like. So don't feel like you have to just pick one and run with that. That is true. I should give him more beard stubble. So I'm going to grab the speckle brush. That's under the skin category as well. And this is giving me a base for where I'm going to be laying his facial hair. So next to that is this light hairbrush. I'm just gonna just draw very, very, very small hairlines, as if the beard has been growing a little bit. And it's little indications like this, and I'm really glad you said something that really enhanced that, you know, there's a time lapse between the character stages. So adding any little details like that can really help. I'm just going through my layers right now, trying to figure out where. There it is. This is what's making the edging look kind of dirty. All right, so finally, now we get into the third one. Yeah, this would be the most painful shave ever. So just like I did before, when we went from the first to the second, I just made a copy of the group layer and pasted it, and now I'm dragging it over to the third one. And just like before, make a copy of the original sketch, lay it over, and I'm gonna make it a multiply. I'm also gonna flip my canvas. All right, so obviously he's taken some damage here. We can go ahead and make a new layer. Yeah, just add some rubbing alcohol, he'll be fine. So for this one, I really wanted it to split down the head even more so it would even come up so much into the head that I want to show it going downward. So you can really see that there's an indentation of where the bacteria has eaten away the hair. And this is where you could do some really cool skin layer indications along with even maybe a skull line. Is he dead already? I would assume probably. That would be my guess. But I'm not going to go ahead and ask him because I don't know what he'll do. So yeah, by this point, I mean, the bacteria has eaten so much into his skull that he's barely even recognizable, I would assume, at this point. And I'm just going to have it kind of eat away at different parts of his head. I do want it to eventually be able to rip through the bones. So even though this is based on a bacteria, I want this bacteria to be strong enough where over time it would eat away at the calcium in the bone. And yeah, eventually I want it to eat through the bone. But the skin would obviously be much faster than the bone itself. So let's see here. I'm trying to get a good look on the character and kind of try to visually see how I want this to go. So I also want these boils that are on his face to get bigger. So this is another good example of using time progression to show how over time these boils that were smaller in the last one have gotten bigger since. Yep, I was definitely thinking since it is airborne, I want to draw reproductive parts on the bacteria. So some of them would have those feelers, or whatever the scientific term is, that produce the spores. And like I said, I mean, if you're doing the exercise and you don't want to do a bacteria one, you want to stick to more classic concepts of zombie stuff, go right ahead. This is just a demonstration of one way to do it and kind of my way of kind of having fun with this concept. So I wanted these big sacks of fluid to start building on the face. The reason I flipped on the canvas, or I did flip the canvas, is because if I kept it like this, I can't scroll past this point if I want to keep the comments on the side. So pretty much the main reason I flipped it is so that I can still read the comments as I'm going about this. All right, now this is the fun part. And I'm going to make a new layer just in case, for whatever reason, I really don't like how this turns out. But I want to start drawing this tongue. And I want it just to be kind of filled with this bacteria pus all over. So the basis for the tongue first. Why doesn't his hair grow as the infection develops? It does. But I'm thinking this is more of a fast infection, so you can see how this... Oh, you mean like the hair on top of his head? Yeah, I guess I could get to that later on. But it would still grow. Because I know they say that even after you die, your fingernails and hair still grow for a time period afterwards. That's just what I heard, though. I'm not backing that up with anything. All right, so now that I have his tongue in place, imagining all these little boils everywhere. And it's kind of fun, well, at least for me, doing more organic type of matter to work with, subject matter, because then you don't have to worry so much about structure and making it follow something specific. You can kind of let loose with the way you're laying them out, and there's a lot of asymmetry that you can work with, and just a lot of fun things on that nature. Oops, looks like Pandora doesn't think I'm listening anymore. Gotta change that. There we go. So for these ones that are bigger, I'm thinking I might make them even more like a multi-layered sectioning rather than it just being kind of like a bubble of sac liquid. All right. I kind of like maybe the center one being more of a sac. I think that takes away too much attention. All right, and like we were saying before, I did want there to be some reproductive spores coming out of like bacteria that will be growing. So I think it would be a good idea if they started growing and they were more in the wind or more in a place where the wind could carry it off. So I think growing off the head would be a good spot. Oh, I'm definitely not going for unicorn. Yeah, now that I look more at the fungus, I really don't like the tree rings. He didn't use a condom. Yeah, this is what happens, I guess. Be safe, guys. Let's do a slight shading just to give a basic value to these sections that are kind of protruding from the face. Yeah, safety first. All right, and something that I've been kind of not paying attention to is like showing more of the underlying skin layers and tissues. Stuff that really makes it still feel at least somewhat human in the fact that, I mean, this bacteria is just ripping apart this human being. You want to show the different layers of the skin. So like I was saying before, I definitely want to show indication that his hair is still growing. I'm going to grab the chalk brush. So then I'm imagining maybe like 3 to 4 weeks progression. So then in my mind, I'm starting to think, okay, so that's probably like maybe an inch of hair, maybe a little longer. I mean, I guess it's a little different for each person, but I'm just basing that off of, I think, how fast my hair grows. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out and just kind of see, okay, what do we got going here? I think by then some of the bacteria would reach the neck area as well. So then just like before, I'm going to grab that rough skin brush, lay it underneath. Oh, yep, just like before, I'm missing the yellow. I'll make sure I add that next. That might be cool to have some of them growing out of the ear too. Let's grab that yellow before I forget. You can see how that yellow just really adds that kind of detail pass that it needed. Yeah, it started off with he had something on his nose. It was funny because I was even thinking of the story of this guy, and originally I thought it'd be like in a bacteria that got just on the inside of his nose, and he kept like itching at it, like scratching. And by doing that, it kind of spread it around to the different areas on the top of his mouth. And then from there, it just kind of took over. So I'm using yellow as a gradient from the tip of these projections, and it just gives a nice, cool kind of a look to it. So it's like wherever you can add gradients that make sense in your piece, try doing it, because that nice blend from one color to the next, especially if they work together well, always adds a little bit of interest. Oh, there is a face, or there is a movie. Poltergeist is where he keeps peeling the skin off. What's another one? Oh, and Black Swan. I don't know if you guys ever watched that movie or have heard about it, but in the extra details that you can watch on the DVD, there's a scene that they deleted where she keeps peeling off sections of her skin on her face, and it's really disgusting. But yeah, this is definitely not, or it's definitely a fun concept of like scratching off parts of your skin. I mean, a cool horror movie, that is. I don't know about a cool concept in general. All right, I'm gonna zoom out, see what these look like. So we definitely have the progression, and I'm thinking it looks somewhat cohesive. I think I would have to go in and add more yellows to the different areas on the second one especially. But then from here I can just kind of have fun with it. So now that I have like a foundation laid out for each of them, then from here I can just go in and edit where I feel needs to be edited. I also want to add some things to the eyeballs like I said I was gonna, and maybe some more sickly hues. Grab a soft light and grab that blue like I was trying to before. Still not digging how that's looking. But I will go in and start to do the eyes. So let's see here. I want to go into group 2. Oop. Come on, Photoshop. There we go. Okay. So by the second stage, I see the bacteria pretty much creating a lot of mucus and pus in the eyeball itself. So let's see here. Yeah, that's what happens when you kiss girls with cold sores. It just spreads. You can't stop it. So I'm pretty much just grabbing a basic skin color, and I'm using that as a base for the iris and the overall cornea of the eye. Now I was also thinking of like putting indication marks of something squiggling around just on the inside layer of his eye. And to do that, it would be pretty much all shown with where you place your lighting. So let's say I had something swarming in here. Just by like hinting at where the lighting would be hitting, where the skin would be bumping out, you can show that there'd be like a little tapeworm or something on the inside of the eye. And since I'm zoomed so far in, I can start to do more little detailing as well. Yeah, the character would just be taken through those different steps then of just going through the areas, seeing what needs to be detailed more, and then just adding things accordingly. So since the third stage, he's pretty much covered by that fungus, I'm going to go ahead and do the blood eye that I wanted in the second stage. I want to make it more of a deep red. Oh, and this I guess I could do a quick little demo on showing like exposed underlying muscle. Just lay down a darker red first, and then lay your lighter red on top, and then if it has any good highlighting areas, then you can draw it on top of that. But I try to avoid doing things like blood coming out or it looking just kind of dumb. Because if I had blood coming out, I'd have to have blood everywhere. So either do a little and do quality over quantity, or just avoid it together. Yes, I am certainly hoping to do a live stream with environments, but I certainly don't feel comfortable doing them. I think I'm going to have a guest author do one for that. And I think it would be great to have one of those because even I would want to watch and just learn whatever techniques that the artist would have to give. Because I know I learn a lot just from watching someone, and I think that would be a great way to pick up some environment tips. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a tutorial series that is being made right now, and I can just say that it includes the idea of the different elements and how to draw them. So that's something to look forward to. So this is another thing where I'm going to start adding highlights and speculars. And I'm going to do it to areas that I would assume have a little bit more of a gloss to them. So like the eyeball, some of the fungus areas, just areas that deserve just a little bit of the highly reflective surface. All right. I'm really digging the second one a lot more than I was before we did the eyes. But I think that really gives it that focus that it was kind of lacking before. So now for this third one, I want to do something more with it. I think I'm gonna slightly redo the hair. So if I wanted to do some experimentation, I guess I could do some overlays, or not overlays. I could try changing a hue or a color blend mode, and then from there, I could draw right on top and then just see what a difference that would make. So let me try hue instead. Yeah, there we go. So then maybe you could have a blend of different color bacterial, or work in different colors. So because once you have them laid down, you can open your hue and saturation menu, and if you just slide this top slider bar, you can see the different color hues that it'll affect without changing the value that you have already placed down. And even if it's too saturated, you can turn that down. I'm not really digging the purple. Maybe I am kind of digging the cool colors. It's got that nice contrast. But if it is too much, I could just always turn down the layer opacity. But from here, I would just go ahead and continually build up the different values and techniques that I have. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut this live stream off, because I think a lot of what I wanted to get through was gotten through, and I don't want this to just go on just because, and then you guys can get back to whatever you guys were doing, and hopefully maybe get inspired to work on the exercise yourself. So here is the final 3 progressions that I have for the live stream, and I'm gonna go ahead and continually work on these until Friday, when I'm gonna lay out the final and some new tips or tricks that I have, and I'll put them on the post itself. So I wanna thank you guys a lot for coming. If you wanna download the new brushes, and I will put a link on the Facebook page, but there's 4 new skin brushes, and yeah, this exercise is due by Friday. I do these live streams every Wednesday at 2, and that's -6 GMT. Thank you guys for coming once again, and I will see you next week, hopefully. Bye, guys.